Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cannes Uncovered. This is our annual preview of the Cannes Lions Festival, providing expert insight and guidance for the awards ahead of the deadline for entries, which is coming up on the 11th of April. So we have an exciting lineup for you with a wonderful moderator, 3 fantastic creative directors that we'll introduce very soon, followed by the current holders of the PR Young Lions crown, talking about their experience and hot tips for this year's finalists. We only have an hour, so I'll just take a quick minute to update you on ECO's plans for the summer before handing over to our first panel. So I'll just share my screen, try to. Can you see that? Good. So ECO's been involved with Cannes Lions Festival for the past 10 years, promoting member agencies, recognizing winners, and then also providing a space for PR people to gather during the festival. This year, we've got an exciting partnership with the Little Black Book Beach, which is in a fantastic location on the Croisette, just next to WPP Beach. I'm sure many of you know it very well. Lots of great content throughout the week with lots of different partners. And this year, we've teamed up with WorldCom to claim Wednesday afternoon for PR-focused content on LBB Beach. We'll have panels, interviews, and some fun interactive sessions before finishing off with the annual PR networking drinks that'll take place on LBB Beach on the same day as the PR Lion is awarded. So we'll have some of the PR Lion jury, the young PR Lions, creative directors, and people from across ECO's global membership there for the drinks. We're also partnering with UNDP for some of that content on the Wednesday afternoon. And one of the campaigns that we'll be showcasing, Weather Kids, is actually launching tomorrow. So just a little bit of a sneak preview of that really strong climate-focused campaign. So look out for that tomorrow. It's activating in over 80 countries. So that's our plans for the festival. I'll now pass you over to the moderator for the first panel, long-time collaborator, multi-award winning journalist, Maja Pawinksa-Sims. Maja.
Thank you, Rob. The Little Black Book Beach was fantastic last year. We were there as well. We've got slightly different plans at PRovoke this year, but I will be gate crashing, so I will see you all there if you come along. I love doing this event with ECO every year, this Cannes Uncovered event, because it's one of the great privileges of being at Cannes is that you get to see so much incredible work from around the world. And even if you do nothing else, it's amazing to just immerse yourself in integrated creative work from completely different sorts of consultancies, different countries, different cultures, different challenges, different brands. And this is our little insight every year into what makes a Cannes winning entry ahead of the final deadline, which is next month in about 3 weeks, I think. So I've got a great panel here, all of whom have chosen 2 Cannes Lion winning campaigns from recent years, and they're going to talk about why they think it was a winner and what they absolutely loved about it. So hopefully that will give you some inspiration and some ideas as you pull together your entries for the Cannes Lions. I think it's critical to point out that these 2-minute videos we're going to be sharing, that's what the jury sees first. And they only are going to read your written entry if they really, really love the video. So it's the toughest one for PR agencies to kind of break through, because historically we've been more about words than pictures, but we're definitely cracking it. And the videos will give you a real idea of what it is that's going to grab juries initially, and then you kind of have to work backwards to unpick it for the written entry. So first up, we have Kat Thomas, founder and global executive creative director of One Green Bean, who's also, we're very honoured to have her here today, going to be the president of the PR Lions jury this year in Cannes. So she's going to see a lot of work this year. And then we've got Ollie Edwards, who's ECD at Good Relations. Hi, Ollie. And last but not least, Amy Jones, who's creative director and board director at Hope and Glory. So welcome all of you. If we've got time at the end, I'll chime in with a couple of my favourites from last year. But first of all, Kat, we'll kick off with your first choice.
Exciting. Do you want me to set them both up? Set the first one up? how would you
One at
like
a
to
time, I
play the
think.
films? Huh?
One at a time, I think.
At a
Is that
time.
right, Rob? Are you just playing them one at a time? Yeah. Let's go
One-
for the
one at
first
a
one.
time, yeah. So
Shall
should I just play it, or do you want to give it a little intro?
I think the first one is Vienna Strips. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose just to set the scene on this, and the ask was for us to pick two of our favorite gold or Grand Prix winning case studies from the last couple of years. Almost an impossible choice. I did look at it through the lens of trying to pick two campaigns that I would deem as sort of world-class commercial creativity. And by that, I mean, don't have a very strong purpose lever. And I'm sure we'll probably come on to talk more about that, but I am very much about celebrating the commercial side of creativity. I think that is what Cannes Lions is all about at the heart of it. So when I was set the challenge to pick a couple of favorites, that is why I made the choice around these two. The first, Vienna Strips, was an initiative that came out of the back of COVID, and it was delivered by an agency in partnership with the Vienna Tourism Board. And having worked and still do work with a number of tourism boards, I can think most of them would probably fire us for even suggesting doing something like this. And that's why I love the bravery of it. The insight in it is absolutely bang on. And the fact, as I'm sure many people watching have had brilliant ideas, but they're still languishing in bottom drawers, these guys managed to get it from an insight to an idea to an execution to generating sort of global coverage and global conversation off the back of it. So why don't we could play the film and then we can expand on it a bit more. Ooh, don't seem to have sound.
Vienna is home to some of the world's most iconic artworks. 100 years ago, these artists fought for the free expression of their art. 100 years later, Facebook and Instagram's algorithms make their fight obsolete and label Viennese art pornographic, leading to blocked accounts and deleted posts. We wanted to bring the discussion about nude art back to where it belongs, in the hands of people, not algorithms.
Vienna's tourism board is trying a different approach, showcasing the museum's art on OnlyFans. Great.
Vienna Strips on OnlyFans, a protest movement for artistic freedom on social media. We took every piece of censored art and published them on OnlyFans, which allows 18+ content for subscribers, protesting the censorship of art, promoting Vienna's historic sexual liberty, and Vienna's most famous museums. All while hijacking the platform. Every subscription on OnlyFans granted free entry to Vienna's museums. A simple move that started a global discussion. 2.5 billion impressions, 150 million engagements.
Für internationales Aufsehen sorgt gerade eine PR-Aktion von Wien Tourismus, weil bestimmte Kunstwerke.
More than 2,500 articles worldwide, media coverage reaching over 730 million people. Advertising Vienna is an open destination in the midst of a global tourism crisis. Vienna Strips on OnlyFans, a protest movement for artistic freedom on social media.
I mean, I'm sure the case study is sort of quite explanatory, but I love the opportunistic nature.
Jones's head using some technical jargon.
Let's see if they can.
There we go. I love the opportunistic nature of just being hit by a problem, and that is the robotic algorithms of Facebook deeming your content pornographic, and flipping that and going, well, let's lean into it. Let's create an OnlyFans account. Let's publish all our content on OnlyFans. And you know, if you look at it through the UK lens, even though that was in Vienna, it generated coverage in everything from sort of the Independent and the Guardian, right through to the Red Tops, right through to the Mail, right through to broadcast news. because it was provocative, because no one had done it before, and because I suppose it was grounded in the absolute sort of irony of art being deemed as pornographic. So, you know, I just, there's so many aspects to that I love, but I would say the value exchange is there. You know, it's entertaining, it's interesting and educational, tick, tick, tick. So for an audience, you certainly learn something. And I absolutely admire and love the bravery of a destination marketing. More often than not sits within a government organization. So for those of you that have government clients or work with sort of government in any sort of capacity, the thought of pitching an OnlyFans idea and getting it across the line and getting it executed, you know, is a pipe dream for the majority of people that work in that world. And you know, I've got very close to getting an OnlyFans idea across the line, and you know, fell at the final hurdle, legal, the delights of legal wading in. So I admire the bravery and ambition and the ability to deliver this and the confidence in the results that it generated. So super simple.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Super brave, super bold, a bit cheeky. Very visual. It's an absolute winner, Kat. I love that one too. So thank you for sharing that with us. What's your second one?
Second one, perhaps interestingly, did well, I think, in PR, but won the Grand Prix in mobile. And I think that, you know, one of sort of my comments or observations is that increasingly PR ideas aren't purely in the PR lane. And much to that point, I don't think PR agencies should sit purely in the PR lane. So this is an idea that is mobile first, but drove an enormous amount of talkability and momentum and noise in the country that it was delivered in. It was delivered in Brazil. It's an example of a brand hijacking in a really smart way the momentum around Brazil winning the World Cup. Argentina, clearly, getting my countries mixed up. You know, Argentina, for those that know, football mad country, been waiting kind of, 36 years to win. And when they won the World Cup, Argentina went into like absolute hysteria, meltdown. We've probably all been in that world of, we need to lean into this, we need to jump on this, how do we capitalize on it? And what this brand did, which is a pizza delivery company, which is obviously something close to my heart because we work at One Green Bean in that world a lot with Domino's, they lent into it in a way that kicked off with a really simple notification via mobile. And we all hate notifications. They're intrusive. They're generally not expected or not wanted unless you're signed up and waiting for something. And then delivered something that got the entire country engaged and talking about it. So if we play the film, you'll get a sense of what this pizza company did.
Suddenly, I get a notification from PedidosYa. What the hell? I didn't order anything. I'm broke.
What the fuck? I got scammed.
I didn't order anything, pieces of shit.
Why did PedidosYa, the #1 delivery app in Argentina, send a fake push notification to all its users? Argentinians waited for the cup for 36 years. And finally, the national team delivered. The country was complete madness. But something was missing. The World Cup trophy.
People are waiting for the trophy.
At full speed, we cross-checked the flight number with public data from an aerospace traffic app and linked it to our delivery app. So right as the airplane wheels lifted off Qatar's soil, 6 million PedidosYa users took the bait. To everyone's surprise, the classic delivery map, instead of a cheeseburger, showed the World Cup's journey home, so every Argentinian could follow it in real time.
When I opened it, he moved me to tears, PedidosYa.
Clap, clap, clap. It was the cup.
I think I love you, PedidosYa.
Therefore, a simple push notification achieved something incredible, making PedidosYa have 32% more mentions than Messi. On the day the whole country was thinking of Messi and Argentina becoming champions, the PedidosYa hashtag reached the top of the trending chart organically, turning it into the most viral brand action of the World Cup. We reached more than half the country, and all of that with an investment of $0.
For me, and again, I guess what we'll probably come on to, creativity is so subjective. There may be people that are dialing in and watching this and gone, don't know if I get it, or I don't know if it speaks to me. But for me, so simple. And the fact that it started with I think the president of the mobile jury said it was brutally simple in its execution, but I think sometimes they're the best. And the fact that they were able to ping 6 million customers and then have more than 6 million customers constantly checking it for 30 hours, engaging with their app, engaging with their platform. People were downloading the app to then follow the trophy to see when it landed. I mean, just a genius idea for engagement, customer acquisition, putting the brand front of mind, hijacking a World Cup moment that they probably, won't have again, leaning into the hysteria in a way that was sort of appropriate for the brand. Yeah, exceptional.
It's a bit special, that one, isn't it? I love the way that it's always interesting to see how non-sponsors of big global sporting events try and hijack the socials, but that one is a real standout. And I love its simplicity, but I think it's also worth pointing out that that video was perfectly put together, 2 minutes as well. It tells a story. It's got all the emotion. It really kind of brings it to life. There's also kind of that moment of peril in there where at the beginning you're like, is this going to backfire? And it was totally perfect. So thank you for sharing that with us, Kat. 2 brilliant choices. And I'm also a big fan of Cannes was sort of hijacked by purpose for many years, and nothing that didn't make the jury cry won anything for a period of about 5 years. So it's great to see levity come back. It's great to see an emphasis on commercial stuff and really kind of quirky, fun, simple ideas just executed brilliantly.
And I would say I was very fortunate to be invited to judge Glass at Cannes in 2022, which is the category for purposeful work. And in a way, that was also an incredible experience, and your brain explodes because you're looking at insanely good campaigns for causes that range from trafficking to domestic violence to famine you're trying to pick between causes and trying to pick between impact. But for me, it actually cemented that in many ways that's the place for that within the Cannes Festival. And I think we can sometimes get a bit snobby or a bit lofty around fucking good ideas for brands that deliver on what the brands need to do, be that fame, be that fortune. I think that we should embrace that and not turn our noses up at it as an industry.
Absolutely. Well, I will watch with interest to see how you direct your jury this year. And
well, have you ever tried that? I think it'll be gentle steerage versus anything else.
Don't let the power go to your head, Kat. But thank you so much. And I will look forward to seeing you on the Croisette. So next up, we've got Ollie's 2 choices. Ollie, do you want to kick off by giving us a little bit of context of your first one?
Yeah, certainly. So my first choice is Meet Graham, which was a campaign done for, I had to look this up actually, the Transport Accident Commission of Victoria in Australia. This was one of the big winners when I last went to Cannes, which was actually 2017, quite a long time ago now. That was the same year as Fearless Girl and a number of other kind of really high profile campaigns. So quite a vintage year in some senses, but I think everyone's heard and seen enough of Fearless Girl in the intervening years. I think this is a much more interesting campaign from a creative point of view. So I'll let you watch the video.
For over 25 years, the Transport Accident Commission, Australia's largest social insurer, have been pioneers of shock advertising. But Australians have become desensitised, and the road toll is rising. We needed a new way of communicating.
The Transport Accident Commission in Australia has sparked huge international debate after they released a car accident awareness campaign unlike any other you've seen before.
Part interactive sculpture, part educational tool, Graham shows us how the human body would need to change to survive a low-impact crash. Over several months, a trauma surgeon and a road safety engineer collaborated with a world-renowned artist, using decades of road safety data, medical research, and creativity to deliver evolution underpinned by evidence. Each physiological change was a new source of information, showing what happens to our bodies in common crash scenarios. We then introduced Graham to influencers in arts, science, and government before touring the country to areas where drivers are more likely to be in an accident. Visitors were the first to use Tango, Google's new augmented reality technology, to go beneath his skin and better understand his anatomy. Within 24 hours, he'd sparked a global road safety conversation as he was discussed, debated, and even memed.
This is Graham.
Now hier treffen wir Graham.
Realmente Graham.
Love him or hate him, you couldn't ignore him, as this road safety message became a global phenomenon. But for all the global impact, the most important influence Graham has is on our future drivers, as he is now part of the school curriculum. And in May 2017, Graham will join the World Health Organization as their international face of road safety, to remind all of us of our vulnerability on the road.
So yeah, I think I picked that one out for two reasons. First of which is just kind of pure originality, I suppose. I think when you're a creative, you can usually see a campaign and dissect it and work backwards and think about what other work may have inspired it, which bits of ideas have kind of stuck together to make it work, because actually that is a big part of what creativity is just bringing together 2 or 3 different things to make something that hasn't been seen before. And I think when I saw this, I couldn't do that. I couldn't find any precedent or hint of where the idea may have come from, other than just a very brilliant mind that had managed to think about the problem completely differently to the way anyone had done up to that point. And I think the second point, second reason I picked this probably is just the quality of the craft. It would be quite easy for the execution of something like this to not quite live up to how good the idea is, but I think the time and effort and expertise and obviously, let's face it, like the money that has gone into this is what makes it so kind of visually striking and so shocking when you first see it. We'll probably come on to this later at some point, because it's obviously a big bone of contention as to why ad agencies win everything it can, even in the PR categories. I think this is quite a good example of why that is. I think it would be really unusual to see a traditional PR agency given the time and budget to execute something like this. There have, of course, been quite a few cheaper knockoffs of this since it appeared. Some of them still very good, but none of them that come close to the kind of the clarity of thought or also the kind of quality of execution of this campaign. So yeah, I thought it was great.
It's great first choice, Ollie. I think Meet Graham is one of those campaigns, like you said, there's been a few cheap knockoffs where it's one of those ones like Fearless Girl where clients go, do me another Meet Graham, isn't it? It's just, it's so brilliant. The quality of the craft, like you said, is amazing. It's completely seamless. It's got all the science in it as well, which we always love to see. So that's an absolute modern classic. So thank you for picking that one first. Tell us about your second choice.
Okay, so my second choice is a campaign called the Foamy Haircut that was done for Brahma beer in Brazil. It's another kind of slightly guerrilla football-based activation from South America, so apologies for that. I'm not entirely, this one didn't kind of sweep the board in the same way that Meet Graham did. I'm not even sure if it won a gold necessarily, but it certainly picked up a couple of awards, and I think it's just a really interesting case study and a huge contrast to the first choice.
Knows that Brazilians are totally crazy about football. So does Brahma, the country's most popular beer. That's why it's always been one of football's biggest sponsors. But how do you show you sponsor a team if it is now forbidden by Brazilian law to display any beer advertising on the players' jerseys? Piece of cake. By hacking the second most important part of a footballer's body, their head.
Legal pra caramba.
Brahma presents the Foamy Haircut. Created in partnership with Ariel, the most famous barber in Brazil, the Foamy Haircut is a hairstyle that resembles a glass full of Brahma. The golden liquid below and Brahma's main feature on top. The trend started with Reinaldo from Sao Paulo FC. From then onwards, boom, it's been adopted by many other players. The Foamy Haircut crossed the field sideline and hit the streets, becoming part of pop culture.
Eu já consigo sentir a cremosidade.
E tá virando tendência.
Eu platinei, agora ele tá parecendo Kiriki.
And the Foamy Haircut has taken over the world.
Começa a rolar a emoção. Vai pra bola, Jorginho.
It was featured on the heads of Chelsea's Thiago Silva and Jorginho as they won the UEFA Super Cup, showing off the Foamy Haircut to the world ahead of all other sponsors. After all, where there's happiness, there's Brazilian football. And where there's Brazilian football, there's Brahma. With body, soul, and head.
Cara, esse cabelo loiro aí, deu sorte, hein? Ah, deu, né?
So I picked this one not just because Jorginho has become such a surprisingly integral part of Arsenal's ascent to the top of the league, but that does help, obviously. But I think it's very atypical, a lot of the stuff that's won at Cannes over the last kind of 5 to 10 years. Obviously, Kat touched upon it as well. The kind of the takeover of purpose, and this campaign, by contrast, is really fun rather than being purpose-led. And as Kat touched upon again, it is actually selling something rather than being done for a cause or charity. So there's been a lot of talk, obviously, recently about that pivot away from purpose, and I do hope that means we see more stuff like this over the next few years, which is just really good fun, and that actually goes back to the task in hand of actually trying to sell some stuff rather than wrapping it up in some kind of higher cause. And I think the other reason I love this is that it looks like it was, not super cheap, but pretty cheap still compared to what it ended up achieving. That is ultimately what earned campaigning should be about, is getting more than you pay for. And I think at Cannes you see quite a lot of campaigns which are essentially paid campaigns masquerading as PR. I think particularly those from the US, where they don't have the same impartiality rules on broadcasts that we have in the UK and Europe. And by contrast to that, this is a campaign that just used a really fun, original idea to achieve an impact that is many, many times greater than that brand could ever have paid for if it just used a paid approach.
Absolutely, Ollie. Classic earned idea. And yeah, it's frustrating to see how many ad agencies have kind of grasped that earned is the way forward at Cannes. And there's not more PR people kind of putting forward those kinds of really clever earned campaign ideas. Which is, part of the reason why we don't win more in this sector, even of the PR awards, is that there's just not enough entries, and the global ad agencies are coming up with some amazing earned ideas. So thank you for highlighting that one. It's enormous fun, and thank you for your contributions today, Ollie. I really appreciate it. Amy, you are next up. What's your first choice?
It's purpose. So I'm really glad the ground has been laid like that. But in my defense, I will say, I do think PR does have kind of a unique position when it comes to challenging issues, in that, I don't know, arguably, according to PR people, our comms are the ones that are kind of listened to and naturally read, the ones that organically people are coming across rather than feeling like they're being talked at, I suppose. So I do think it's important. And the first one is a glass lion, so it does have a deliberate place there. And I think when it came to picking my favourite two, this one, it just did have the biggest effect on me. And also, I really, really love when somebody is able to find a loophole and make the most of that. So it doesn't have to be purpose. And there's definitely some work, I mean, there's some work we've done around that, where you've just found a little way of getting around, you know, a piece of legislation, or it could just be challenging the way a particular industry works, or, you know, the status quo. And this idea really did that. And I think probably what I'll do is I'll let you play the video and then I'll talk about why I liked it. But it was the morning after pill island.
Right.
La píldora del día siguiente es un aborto.
Nuestro país no permite la venta de este producto.
Es un abortivo farmacológico.
De sus derechos, las mujeres hondureñas han fundado una isla.
La isla del día después.
Ahora irán a un espacio seguro en medio de alta mar.
Island, a trip to the future of la isla 4 metros cuadrados más generado de reclamar nuestros derechos. A creative solution for Honduran women.
Mujeres hondureñas, no les voy a fallar. Voy a defender sus derechos. Cuenten conmigo.
So quite purposey. I'd say
I feel the need, Amy. I do feel the need to just
no. Kat, I do think you're right. You are right.
But when I judge Glass, that piece that you picked is the most memorable that I've remembered for the last sort of 3 years. So I was not surprised that you called it out. It is jaw-dropping in terms of what they managed to achieve. My view on purpose is that it needs to be two things. It needs to have impact and at scale, which, you know, ticked it. What I don't have time for is, you know, we've developed a prototype for a pill that will cure cancer and we've made the code open source, so go ahead and use it, and isn't it brilliant? And like, there's just no real world impact. That's where I sort of draw the line. But
I agree. And also, I mean, I think the next one, so I will talk about this one first, but when I go into the next one, it's a good example of a commercial company using purpose. And I think that's obviously often where the wheels come off, is when, you know, a crisp company is going, actually, how can we help young people? And you're just like, well, you can't, you're just feeding them. Like, that's enough sometimes. And I think you're right. It's when everyone is forcing purpose into every campaign they do where it doesn't work. But this, like you said, it was, you know, it is the glass lion. There was a place for it. And what I really liked about this is that, exactly like you say, it had an impact in the moment, because obviously the individual women using that service were having a service they otherwise wouldn't have had. They would have had to go ahead with those pregnancies, which is horrific. But also, they had a longer term goal, which was to change that law, and they did actually meet that law, although it doesn't say that in that video. Last year, that law was changed. It's a real impact that I'm sure there was more than just that. It was a women's right activist company. It wasn't just them working in that world, but they had a huge impact, and it made a real difference. And so I suppose it's just for a little loophole and one fairly simple idea to chuck a piece of wood just out of Honduran jurisdiction made a massive difference. I would say, kind of like Oliver was saying, that if it was a PR company doing it, probably, and this is part of the issue, our budget would have meant we'd have had one boat trip one time, so we'd have made the point, but it's not the same scale. So it does take the scale and the kind of budget to really get behind it. But I just really loved it, and I felt it did have an impact.
Yeah, I think everyone watching that really felt it. I remember that one kind of coming to the fore in 22 as well. I think we're all acutely aware that women's rights and ability to make choices about their own body are being rolled back so dramatically in various places in the world, including in the US, and it really kind of hits home that there's meaningful work to be done from a comms point of view. And what I also liked about that one is, like, so much purpose-driven stuff is about awareness raising, and that actually had a tangible end result, real, not just real world impact, but actual legislation change. So I think that, that's, those occasions are few and far between where you can track something from a brilliant creative idea to actually, changing policy. But that was what made it outstanding, rather than just raising awareness of the issue. So thanks for choosing that.
I think that is one of the changes that's coming. So obviously there is continued call for purpose work. It is still, the crest is still raising. But one of the things that I think has changed in the last year maybe is that there is a demand for it to be authentic and to have a result. You can't just say, there's got to be a link to the people that your product, especially if it's commercial, is talking to. Otherwise, what are you doing? Don't, stay in your lane in that respect. But also there does have to be like an end goal, something that you're at least aiming for. Whereas before, I think when it started off, it was a bit more, Wild West when it came to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the second choice is also a little bit purposey. I do work a lot in this world, so these things tend to have more of an impact. And I was going to put forward the DoorDash self-love bouquet, which I just absolutely love. So do look that one up, but I just didn't have enough to say on it, to be honest with you. It's just great. But what I picked was the female company's Tampon Book, which again, I thought was particularly clever. It's another loophole idea, but again, it is actually a product, an on-sale product, and they've managed to find a way to leverage themselves and challenge an issue and change it. So again, similar themes, but I'll let you play the video.
Shocked to learn that pads, tampons, and other menstrual products are taxed as luxury goods.
I suspect it's because men were making the law.
Right, Mr. President, men made the tax laws. 50 years ago, German lawmakers, who were all men, decided to tax feminine hygiene essentials like tampons with the highest rate of 19%, but things like caviar, oil paintings, or truffles with only 7%. So tampons are the real luxury? Menstruation is luxury? Breaking the law wasn't an option for the female company, an online shop for feminine hygiene products. So how could we sell tampons for 7% instead of 19%? We outsmarted the law with the law itself by selling tampons packaged as a book, because books are also only taxed with 7%. Hello to the Tampon Book, a book that is a packaging for tampons to save taxes, a book that is a provocative message of existing gender inequality in our tax system. The book sold out within a day, the second edition within a week. It put the unfair tax system on the agenda of national and international media.
1.650 € Steuern zahlt jede Frau in ihrem Leben nur für Tampons.
We sent the Tampon Book to all politicians in parliament. Germany's largest drugstore chain decided to sell the Tampon Book. The petition on change.org got more than 150,000 signatures. A broad alliance of influencers, media and politicians increased the pressure on the government. With success, on the 7th of November 2019, the German Parliament abolished the tampon tax once and for all.
Zukünftig wird für Tampons und andere mit der monatlichen Periode verbundenen Hygieneprodukte endlich statt 19% der verminderte Mehrwertsteuersatz von 7% gelten.
Therefore, the Tampon Book is the first advertising campaign to cause a change in German law.
Now again, another one with that, it did have direct action and it did change that law. And it was, although it was, again, it was an ad agency. What I liked about this is it was very PR idea, really low cost. It had kind of classic tactics, if you like. They sent them to MPs, they partnered with a retailer to sell them on the high street, and they just, you know, fairly classic, get some influencers to tweet, all the kind of things that we have built into our campaigns, just very kind of simple and low cost.
Yeah, perfect. I love that one for so many reasons. It's a brilliant creative idea. It has a product. It, like you said, it mixed public affairs and influencer marketing. It's truly original and it had a real world impact. So thank you very much for choosing that one, Amy. I'm going to drop my two examples because we are almost at time for this session, but thank you all so much for your contributions, some real food for thought there, which I hope gives you all some real inspiration, not just for the types of campaigns that might be worth putting forward, but what makes a great award-winning video. So I'm going to hand back to Rob now, who's going to do a great conversation with our two Young PR Lions winners, Judy and Sarah.
Thanks, Maja. So I think we've got 15 minutes left. I see there was some questions in the Q&A, so if we do have time right at the very end, we can circle back to those. But now we move on to talking about the Young Lions competition. So for those that don't know, this is the creative competition for teams of 2 under the age of 30, in which teams receive a brief from a charity or an NGO and then have 24 hours to create a PR campaign that delivers the brief and pitch it to judges. So to tell you more and give tips for this year's cohort, it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers who won the competition globally last year. Judy Bakieh, Senior Integrated Communications Manager from Gambit Communications, and Sarah Alsalem, Senior Account Manager at Gambit Communications. Over to you.
Thank you, Rob. Really excited to take you guys through our campaign, our winning idea, and a few insights for those who are aspiring to actually join this year. Rob, if you don't mind, can you just give me access to share my screen?
Yeah, bear with me. Struggling a bit here. Roma, I don't know if you can step in.
I got it. It's okay. I can.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Just Can everyone see the presentation?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So I'll just take you guys through the brief that we got last year during the Young Lions competition. So it was basically from a company called EcoTree, which helps corporates and individuals offset their carbon emissions. And basically they wanted to launch a B2C campaign that offers carbon credits directly to individuals. The campaign obviously needed to be very engaging, educational, and like actually convey a message of trust and credibility. So the carbon credits that were actually on EcoTree, they were kind of positioned in a way that the credits are investments and they're opportunities. So this is the way they were attracting their consumers. And that's kind of the way that our whole idea for the campaign came together. So when we were looking at their profile and their whole company and page, we really studied how the company and the website, like how they were speaking to their individuals, consumers, and how it is that you can actually buy and invest in a tree. Because the idea of investing in a tree for Judy and I was like, how are we really investing in trees and you're getting an ROI like back from that? So what we did is, this is a really important point as well, is that when you really look at the company profile and study exactly what they're doing and go into the fine prints, campaign ideas might actually come together. So what we did was, in one of their articles, reading the fine print, it says that the investment might outlive the purchaser depending on the harvesting date. So if you can see here, you will get your investment back like 71 years after actually making it. So like technically you're not really getting an investment. And this is where our idea came to life. And what we decided was to do the best bad investment. So basically our creative idea was very humorous, it was honest, it was authentic by actually telling people that you can make this bad investment if you're looking at it from a financial perspective. But if you're actually taking it from a perspective of helping our future, then it's actually your best bad investment. So these are this is the way that we kind of it was our tagline, the best bad investment, and we kind of looked at insights of like our target audience, and we know that when everyone is really overwhelmed now with messages about investing, and they're sick of these advertising and marketing just like lying to them about really great investments. So we just did the complete opposite and said it was the best bad investments you can make. Obviously, we had a social campaign that was like realistic ads that we actually showcased. So it was like if you can see on the right, we would like write invest in Italian maple trees and you get your money back just in 71 years. So it was really funny in a way that was humorous. And we actually even tested it out ourselves. So what we did was we started asking our followers, Judy and I, like, what's the best bad investment that you made? And we got so much people like texting us back saying, I don't know, my marriage, crypto, like different investments. So it's kind of it was a campaign that really drives conversation, and this is the way that we went ahead with it. And I'm just showing you here some of the actual assets that we created. And we really did take a big risk here with the whole idea, since the idea was very humorous and sarcasm was also a part of it. And we didn't want it to go in the wrong direction. But luckily, EcoTree's website, language, the way that they speak with their customers, it was very humorous as well. So it was really a risk worth taking, and that won us gold. I think Judy now will take us through. Judy, do you have anything to add on this?
Thank you, Sarah. So just to clarify one thing, so basically how you guys would do this investment was that you would buy a tree to offset your carbon emissions. So that was the investment itself. So when you buy that tree, you're offsetting your carbon emissions. And then how they called it an investment was because after the tree matured, they would cut it and they would sell the timber and you would get back that money. That was basically why it was called an investment. But the crucial thing here was that the tree would only mature after 71 years. So it would outlive you. So your investment would technically outlive you. And this is where our campaign idea came. Now, I'm going to take you through a couple of advice that I think really worked for us. And to be honest with you, if I were to give everyone a piece of advice, it would be to prepare, to exercise your mind, to really think fast and strategically under pressure. Because as we know, that the Cannes Young Lions is a 24-hour brief. You have to think fast on your feet. Having references in your mind of what works and what doesn't. I mean, we all know that success is a cumulative process. It's not an individual moment of genius. So if we take a step back and we look at what really happened even before Cannes for Sarah and I, you'll see that there was a lot of hard work that happened behind closed doors months before the day itself. Every day, since the day we got the news that we were going to Cannes, we started preparing. We spoke to people who had participated before and previous winners to understand how they approached it, their learnings and overall mindset. We went through international campaigns that had won before. They were available there because they were all available, obviously, on Young Lions website. I've actually seen several of the campaigns that you guys have actually showed as well. So there's so much things that we had in mind as inspiration and benchmarks of great work. We also started scenario planning. We thought of all the potential NGOs that they could give us and brainstorm what potential ideas we could do for them. the thing is, you can't imagine how many campaign ideas we had from that time to today that we use sometimes. So any NGO that you thought of, we had a potential campaign for. The idea wasn't to find out what the topic was ahead of time, but it was actually practicing how to think fast on our feet in minimal amount of time, because that's the competition. So that exercise over a period of time really helped us when we were in Cannes, because we knew how to structure our thinking when we were on a timer. And this is something that all participants should be doing now. Now, when it comes to Cannes and competing on a global level, this is where you really need to keep your eyes on the prize and not get sidetracked with all the noise. It's really hard not to be intimidating, knowing that you are competing with the best in the world, literally. So when those doubts creep in, when you find yourself looking around you and thinking, what are the other teams doing? Are they being more innovative? What skill sets do they have? What advantages do they have? This is where you really need to have tunnel vision and focus on perfecting the idea that you have and making sure that it's bulletproof and solid. And then moving to the idea itself, to be honest, 2 words for me stick. It's simplicity and attention to detail. This means having an idea that is simple yet relevant and disruptive, but also paying attention to the small details. In our campaign, it was one sentence which we found after reading the client's fine print that actually made our campaign unique and even ended up being our anchor. Then we had to simplify it and make it engaging. And this is why Sarah was telling you that we actually tested it out and we made it kind of our tagline of Best Bad Investment. And we wanted to start the conversation. It wasn't specifically about the financial investments. It was just creating a way to engage with the audience. And this is why we were asking them, what is your bad investment? And so on and so forth. So because we wanted to talk to people, even if it wasn't about our specific topic. And also there's another thing here, that we took a risk and we knew that, but it was very much calculated. Why? Because what we did is we actually had studied their Q&As and we saw that their tone of voice was actually very friendly. So we knew that they would be open to something that was more humorous. So this goes back into attention to detail. And then obviously what we did in the end was that when we presented, we had put on a show for them, to be fair. We made sure that we had proof points for them that made them excited, but also confident about the campaign idea. And then moving on to the team. I can't stress this enough, but the team member that you go in with is so important. Make sure that the person that you're going with, you know the strength and weaknesses of each other ahead of time so that you are able to divide and conquer on the day itself. Most importantly, don't go in with someone that is your duplicate, but rather someone that kind of complements your skills, someone that you enjoy working with and can be your soundboard, because that's where the real magic happens. It takes one word to spark an idea, and team chemistry is crucial for that fire to start. Sarah and I had worked together a lot before Cannes and already knew what roles each of us would take. I'm not just talking about my daily motivation talks, borderline screaming at Sarah, telling her that we had to win, but also the details of who handles text versus design on slides. And then finally, mindset. Go in with what now I call the lion mindset. You have to win. There's no other option. Put everything that you have on the table. It's once in a lifetime, so go all in.
Really great advice. Thank you very much. Really good for anyone competing this year. You mentioned you spent a lot of time preparing, and I'm sure that put you in good stead and an advantage to maybe some of the teams that didn't do the same volume of prep. But I'm just thinking, it's a 24-hour competition. Was EcoTree an organization that you knew before? Obviously, you can't
even understand.
Rob,
I can't stress enough how shocked. Can't stress enough how shocked we were when we got the brief. Our faces went blank because we had practice on climate change and environmental causes and so on, but nothing that linked financial investments to the environment. When they said something carbon credits, me and Sarah were like, what is carbon credits? We had no idea. So there was that part of actually educating ourselves as well and kind of learning that from scratch. But as I said, it wasn't the idea of practicing beforehand is not to know what the topic is. It's more to kind of practice how to think and the structure and the kind of not panicking in the sense where you have 24 hours, let's go. It's not the first time that we've done that. We had practice before. And also, as I was saying, like structuring how in terms of slides, flow, the insight and so on, and knowing your audiences and so on.
Did you know in advance, right, we're going to spend this amount of hours researching the brand, researching the value, this amount of hours kind of brainstorming ideas, then putting the pitch together? Or did you kind of just go with the flow a bit, or how did that work?
So something that happened with us when we did the regional competition was that we realized that an idea might take like 5, 6, 7 hours of going back and forth. So what we did was that we put a time limit where, okay, let's say at 9 or 10 p.m. that's it. Whatever idea we have, we had to start working on the slides, and then we can tweak the idea as we go. But that's like our, let's say, cut off. But we gave ourselves a very generous amount of time to actually brainstorm, because we know that it takes a lot of time, because we had practiced this before time. So we had a cutoff time in terms of when do we start on slides. But then also when you start on the slides, you tweak your idea automatically, because you start going into the details of it.
We had the main idea, like Judy said, but then once you start doing, okay, that's the main idea, that's our insight, that's what we're gonna do. But there's also obviously a lot of PR amplification, like things that you're gonna do for the campaign as well. So that kind of comes and goes, like while you're doing it, so you don't waste a lot of time. But at least like cut off time, like Judy was saying, that you have at least your main idea, the rest will follow.
That's good advice. I'm just looking at the time. I do have lots more questions, but we just go to kind of the final bit. Obviously, winning. How has that helped your career? What advice would you give to, obviously everyone going this year is already nationally or regionally a winner. There will be a global winner. What advice would you give in terms of making the most of that and milking it a bit?
Yeah. Well, let me just go back to the first question, which is like how it helped our career. I mean, like I always say, part of our job as PR professionals is to work under pressure. I mean, that's a given. But the intensity of this competition was a whole other level. Like it's working under pressure, it's strategic thinking, it's being creative, it's staying awake, acting fast. So I really feel like this kind of helped our career in terms of when we came back as stronger PR professionals, whether that's working on a new client brief or a new campaign. It really gives you that boost and that ability to think quick while you're working on campaigns. And advice around making the most out of it, I would say your experience at Cannes is going to stay with you forever. I mean, Judy and I, like, for example, attended so many webinars when we were there, but we couldn't go to everything because our mind was so focused on winning and that having that line mindset and just practicing. Even after we submitted, it was also practicing for a presentation, because right after you submit, you have a 5-minute presentation to the jury. So that was also intense. So really perfecting everything, that our minds were just on the competition and winning and getting that gold. So I would really tell people to have a balance between both, attend some, but also really focus all your energy on winning.
But on that note specifically, I just want to add, remember one thing, that you need to go with the mindset to win, because if you do win like we did, we'll go back the next year and actually go to enjoy the festival and do all the networking and attend all the seminars and webinars that were happening. So just go and
that's a really great way to finish. Now, if you win, then you get to come back the next year.
Yeah.
And now you can look forward to participating in, and this is my segue to round this off, the Little Black Book Beach. So we hope to see you there, and I'm sure anyone who's a finalist who's attending can get in touch with Sarah and Judy if they have questions that they want to ask and help with some of that preparation work. So just a reminder before we finish to look on the ECO website. We've got the sign up already for our activations with LBB and WorldCom and PRovoke as well. Maja, did you want to say any final words before we finish?
No, other than if you can get there, do get there. And I think I'm absolutely blown away by what Judy and Sarah did last year, and it's well worth going for it on the Young PR Alliance. What an amazing start to the next phase of your career. Thank you so much for talking us through that, and thank you very much, Amy, Kat, and Ollie as well for giving us some pointers to what makes a winning entry. And hopefully see you on the Croisette in the summer.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
See you
you.
again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.